Welcome to Caseback Watches, my name is Tim, and in this episode I'd like to speak about the Rolex Submariner, the vintage Rolex Submariner. How to buy a vintage Rolex Submariner. Little warning, risky. I think it's the riskiest task in the watch world, because the watch world is flooded with fakes, with Frankenwatches, you know, this Submariner from the 60s with the dial from the 80s, everything legit, but doesn't match, doesn't fit the period of time. So very risky in how to do it. And to be frank, for me alone, it's impossible to explain you this in one single video. I need help. I have help. This was in the mail yesterday. The vintage Rolex Field guide written by Morgantundra. This is a sort of alias. The real name is Colin from the United States. And Colin reached out to me several weeks ago and said to me, you have done this video about how to buy a vintage Constellation. Do you want to present this book on your channel? And I was a little bit reserved, because there are so many books out there without big publishers, and sometimes the quality isn't there. And so I said to him, perhaps, but please send me some images, send me a little bit background, a sample, maybe some pages at least. And he did. And I thought, okay, this is something serious. This is not the normal coffee table book about Rolex. This is really something different. You know, buying vintage watches, it's all about the numbers. It's all about the numbers in detail. You need the reference number. I've explained this in my videos, my how to buy videos. You need the reference number, the serial number, the year of manufacturing. Everything has to fit. The lume has to match the lume dots, and everything has to be at its place. And so you have a puzzle, and your job then is to find the piece which doesn't fit in the puzzle. This is a lot of work, to be frank. This is a lot of work. You have to Google everything on your own, and so it's so great if somebody has done it for you. And this is exactly what Colin has done. He collected mountains of data. And now you may ask, is this all accurate? But Colin is a data scientist. He has a background collecting data, and you can see this. You can really see this here. And so great help. And so I said to him, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I present this book on my channel, and I do it for free, because he's an enthusiast. He will not make big money with this book, certainly not. But in exchange, I can tell you what I want about this book, and I will tell you my honest opinion about the book, good sides and some little downsides. The good thing here is that, as I said, he has collected all the data. If you really want to buy yourself a Rolex Submariner, then you go to the content and you check here, professional tools, Oyster Perpetual Submariner, page 71, and there it is. Oyster Perpetual Submariner, and he explains everything. Everything. The varieties, the movements. Submariner timeline you see here. Then here the famous 1680 red Submariner date with some special notes about that particular model. You have everything really deep in detail, and so such a great help. I mean, if you can't do this by your own, but then you spend days with Google Images. So very hard task. And so this is a great help. This is absolutely a great help. Okay, downsides. Relatively expensive, $50 for the book, $50 for the book, so relatively expensive. But if you are without a big publisher, and if you produce a book on your own in small quantities, then yeah, the costs per unit are pretty high, and so I think he has to charge $50 for this book. Good news here, I arranged a discount for you. This is not affiliate marketing. I don't receive anything for this. I think I'll keep the book. And 20% off, okay? There's a link in the description. Follow the link, please. The first 50 books, only the first 50 books are with that discount, 20% off, okay? And if you are a little bit broke, why are you watching a video how to buy a vintage Rolex Submariner if you are broke? So this is not very likely. But if you like your book as an ebook, then you can buy the copy as an ebook. This is way more affordable, okay? Link also in the description. Second downside, the the layout is not super professional. Sometimes you have a little differences in the color of the font. But to be frank, if you do this on your own, if you lay out an entire book on your own, this is pretty tough. This is pretty tough. So we can look over this. Overall, it's okay. It's legible. And see this? Legible and okay. I think we can live with this pretty good. Even if you're not going to buy a vintage Rolex Submariner next week, then it's a great read. You will learn so much about the brand Rolex and about collecting vintage pieces in general. So big recommendation, even if you plan buying a vintage Rolex Submariner, is for, let's say, for the next 10 years maybe. Okay, but now let's go to the second half of this video. I will give you some tips for alternatives. I mean, not everybody has the kind of money to buy a vintage Rolex Submariner. I mean, we were talking sometimes here about $20,000 in that region, or 10. This is for many people, this is too much money, and I totally get it. And myself, I cannot spend 20 on a watch, to be frank. And so we need some alternatives. I think we need some alternatives. And the standard answer here is Steinhardt. The German manufacturer Steinhardt makes very high quality homage watches. And they retail at $500 or 500 euros, and quality is very high, very good looking watches, especially the vintage Submariner. They produce this vintage red Submariner. By the way, I'm wearing my vintage Rolex Datejust. But those are homage watches, and it's a little bit too easy in my opinion. Just go to the shop and order the watch, because when we talk about those vintage Rolex models, we don't talk about ratio. we're talking about sometimes about insanity. I mean, there are people out there, they don't hunt down the watch only for the watch. They hunt it down because it's rare, because it's expensive, because you don't have it, I don't have it. They want something really special, and sometimes they hunt the watch for the hunt. Buying this Steinhardt then, it's too easy. It's too easy. It's an homage. It's too easy. So great watch. I totally get it, but it's too easy. And my first thought then was, let's recommend an Enicar Ocean Pearl, for example. Enicar Ocean Pearl. The problem from the 60s was that then a cheap watch was like a fashion watch from the 60s, so to speak. But then I thought, well, that's too cheap, and it's not a style. It's not a diver. It has the ocean in the name, but it's not a diver. And then I thought a little bit deeper, and then, of course, Omega Seamaster 300. Great watch with a lot of history in it, with tons of character in it, and pretty tough. If you buy yourself a nice Omega Seamaster 300, then you have done something pretty damn good, because they are rare now, they're expensive, there are fakes out there. But the price region is different. It's not the Rolex price region. And so if you say now, I want to get in it, I want to buy a vintage piece, upper class vintage piece, so to speak, but I can't afford the Rolex Submariner, then go for the Omega Seamaster. It's such a great watch. And again, it's not easy to buy that watch. It's not affordable. It's damn expensive, but it's not so crazy like the vintage Rolex Submariner. And so this, in my eyes, is a very good alternative for you if you say, I want to do this, but on a budget. Okay, that's all I want to say about vintage Rolex Submariners, the book, the alternatives. I hope you forgive me if the title is a little bit clickbaitish. I admit this, but I'm really convinced that this is a great product, a great help for all of us, and it can save you a lot of money, and so I think it's absolutely worth the buy. Okay, I'll leave it there. By the way, one single thing, I don't make any money with this presentation here, and in the last video, or under the last video, viewer complained about the advertising in this video, the ads in the middle of the video. He thought it kills the video. And you know what? I agree. And so this video, I think, will be without an ad in the middle. But at the end, those ads are the reason that I can do this for free. Okay, that I can do this for free. And more important, I can speak frank and honest. I can speak freely about the products I present here, because the ads bring in the money I need for, let's say, buying music, buy images, shipping costs and everything. So please tolerate the ads. They are important for me to stay independent with something like that. Okay, and that's it. Please join me on Instagram if you like Caseback Tim. And now let me thank you very much for your attention and maybe until next time.